April edition of the Public Hearing Show. I'm Kathy Fine.
And I'm Annette Werner.
And together we bring you the issues concerning the stakeholders of the Pittsburgh Public Schools. This month, at the April public hearing, there were 11 speakers.
Yes, and they focused on class sizes, the RISE system of teacher evaluation, and concerns about standardized testing.
So let's hear what they had to say, and we'll see you in a little bit.
Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to clarify the procedures for this evening's public hearing. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to speak. As your time begins to wind down, there will be a flashing light on the microphone that's located in the center at the center door where the steps lead up to. That gives you approximately 30 minutes to wrap up your testimony. Speakers who arrive late at the public hearing will be given the opportunity to present their testimony after all speaker names have been announced. This evening's public hearing will be moderated by Erica Fairby-Jones. In order to better accommodate all speakers and their needs, please note that we've located the microphone in the center, and it does have the ability to pick up your voice, so you don't have to bend over to speak at the microphone. Ms. Jones will call speakers one at a time. We ask that when your name is called that you go out into the hallway and take your place at the speaker's podium where the center doors are located. When it is your time to speak, a staff member will come up to you and collect your written testimony and provide those copies to the board. Ms. Jones, please proceed with calling our first speaker.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sumter. Our next 3 speakers are number 1, Bonnie Spoles, number 2, Donna McCartney, and number 3, Kip Dawson. Speaker number 1, Ms. Spoles.
Just for clarifying purposes, each speaker has 3 minutes to speak, and at the end of when the light blinks, they have 30 seconds to wrap up their testimony. Thank you.
My name is Bonnie Spoles. Quiet enjoyment is a right to the undisturbed use and enjoyment of real property by a tenant or landowner. This is the legal terminology that applies to my home across from Fulton School. Nuisance, trespass, and loitering also apply to the relationship between my property and Fulton School. My property is continually trespassed upon by students and caretakers directly related to the school. The result has been the destruction of my personal property, specifically a fence. The continual handling of my fence by hitting, leaning, and pulling the pickets has caused the fence to become weak and open to further destruction. Your students eventually pull or knock off the pickets. This has been a continuing problem, and the school and the board members have been apprised of for over a decade. You have, up until I started posting videos of the trespassing, continually refused to take any action to stop the trespass or provide remedy to the destruction of my fence. Recently, the school has provided ineffective action to deter the kids from causing additional damage by rerouting some of them to Mellon Street. This does nothing to solve the problem of the damage already done by your students and your policies. I have asked repeatedly, month after month, year after year, for the school board to stop the criminal acts by their students and to make my property whole, to no avail. I have taken to posting trespassing and vandalism videos since the school board refuses to acknowledge or provide remedy from the damage done to my property by the students at Fulton. I pay around $3,000 a year in school taxes. I do not feel that an additional $2,000 to $6,000 should be my responsibility. Your students' criminal actions have resulted in the neighborhood looking like a ghetto and the reduction of property values. My next steps will be to initiate court case to have the school board replace my fence with one that your kids cannot destroy. I will further take action to force you to change your policy instructing parents to wait and loiter on the residential side of the street for your students that you're pushing off the school property and into the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Speaker number 2, Donna McCartney.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here today to speak to you about the RISE evaluation system. As a teacher, my opinion of it has changed over the years, and I'm asking you to rethink how you are now using RISE in our schools. When I first became a member of the RISE team for Colfax, the year after the pilot program began, I was very enthusiastic about it. I thought it was a very fair system that supported teacher growth. I thought it was a good idea to use the excellent Charlotte Danielson model. But now my opinion has changed. What I saw as an outstanding plan for teacher growth is now being used as a tool that can hurt teachers. Not only teachers who are perhaps working in the wrong profession, but also teachers who have the respect of their students and their school community. I'm here to ask you to understand that the way we are using RISE now is hurting teachers and ultimately hurting the students of the Pittsburgh Public Schools. I've had the privilege of teaching children for more than 35 years, the last 25 years at Colfax. It's been an honor for me for most of those years. Other than wanting the general respect of principals and the ability to teach my students to the best of my ability, I've not needed a high performance rating to feel that I'm a good teacher. Last year I received a distinguished rating. Today I brought this symbol of distinguished that you gave to me back. I'm returning it to you today. I do not value it. As a science teacher who doesn't like waste, I'd like you to recycle it to someone who does appreciate it. I'll leave it at the security desk in the front. The reason I do not value this symbol is because the RISE model for teacher growth that I admired when I first encountered it, and I still do, has been turned into a club that's being used to beat down some of my fellow teachers. Instead of thoughtfully considering a lesson and using the components like I did to stretch my teaching, too many teachers are fearful trying to figure out how to get a higher score in a component so that their overall numbers are high enough to keep their career and continue teaching the children they love. Not all teachers feel this fearful, but far too many do. I'm here talking about it because I can. I'm retiring in June, and I feel I can say what many of them would like to say, but don't feel they have the freedom to do. Before I leave, I want to do everything in my power to help the colleagues that I'm leaving behind in the trenches, fighting for the good fight every day to teach our children well. Instead of being treated as trusted professionals, they feel under attack. I feel that many administrators are sincerely trying to use the RISE system to the best of their ability. Teachers must provide a quality education for our children. If they cannot deliver the skills that students need to be successful, they need to find another career. However, the way we are using RISE as a system which causes a lot of stress and challenges for a teacher, we're doing it to move people on who aren't very good, but most of the people who are affected with this are the ones who are good teachers, doing a good job, and are worried about the
Thank you so much for coming out today. Speaker number 3, Kip Dawson.
Thank you, wonderful school board, for this opportunity and for the work that you do every day for our children. We don't take it for granted that we have a wonderful elected school board, something that's disappearing in too many cities. Today, though, I'm here to beseech you to use your leadership to stand up for our children and for education against the test-driven derailing of our public schools. My family moved to Pittsburgh 17 years ago so that our children could attend Pittsburgh Public Schools, which they did, K to 12. My younger daughter is currently a Promise Scholar in her junior year at Pitt. Until last Tuesday, I would have introduced myself also as a Pittsburgh Public School middle school teacher. But on Tuesday, for nearly half of the day, and ever since then, my title has changed to test administrator, as did most of my colleagues. In that capacity, our role practically reversed itself. Instead of being the nurturing adults who work to inspire thoughtful and thought-provoking conversation, inquiry, focused reading, spirited interchanges of ideas and information which spur curiosity and real intellectual growth, we are now enforcers of rules that we did not participate in creating, nor did you, of an atmosphere which is antithetical to the teaching and learning environment that we and our children have worked so hard to create. What does this do to our children? I invite you to take with you this image that I cannot get out of my head. 2 years ago, I was teaching a class of middle school students who were significantly below grade level in reading. Among them was an 8th grade young woman in development whom I had taught for two previous years, other subjects. That year, I had watched her develop from a child who hid behind books and papers, or with her head on desks and tables, into a student who was becoming confident enough to try those academic challenges which she had thought she would never be able to take on, that they would always be beyond her. She was reading aloud with her peers, she was participating in discussions and written responses to her reading, and especially she was joyfully finding her voice as a writer. She was approaching the coming of high school with a growing confidence and almost with joy. Then, one day, she took one of those standardized tests, one that would give her immediate feedback. I watched her at the computer. In slow motion, it all comes back to me daily. She stood up, stumbled to her desk, crawled under it, banged her head on the floor over and over again, saying, "I'm so stupid, I'm so stupid, I'm so stupid," when the numbers that came up told her that she wasn't succeeding. That became her self-image, and those numbers were wrong. Now, magnify that to all of our students in Pittsburgh Public Schools when they get those PSSA reports.
Thank you so much, Kit. We have your testimony. Thank you. Our next three speakers are number 4, Jennifer Pelling, number 5, David Bringen, and number 6, Pamela Wells. Speaker number 4.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Pelling, and I have 2 daughters, age 5 and 7, who attend 2 different schools. Our eldest attends a private school, Pittsburgh Urban Christian School in Wilkinsburg, and our youngest is a kindergartner at Arsenal Elementary. This seems to me, and to most of my friends, to be a rather odd and rather inconvenient arrangement, and so I am constantly answering questions about it. I have a variety of answers to these questions, but this evening I will give you 2 of the most straightforward. There are 2 great differences between these 2 schools. One is diversity. The private school is diverse for a private school, but it can't hold a candle to Arsenal Elementary. I often tell people that there are children from 15 different countries in my daughter's kindergarten. Arsenal in Lawrenceville, they say? I had no idea. My daughter thrives in this setting, and we are grateful for it. However, the second difference between my 2 daughters' 2 schools is the reason why our eldest does not attend Arsenal: class size. At the private school, my first grader has 17 students in her class. At Arsenal, my kindergartner is in a class of 30. This works for now because of their different personalities. My eldest is quieter, more sensitive and artistic, and my youngest has been called a miniature Hillary Clinton and does not mind the crowds. Both of my daughters have incredible teachers, really 2 of the best teachers I have ever seen. But the difference between what these 2 teachers are able to do with a class of 17 and a class of 30 is vast. I'm not talking about test scores, because I don't send my children to school so that they will score well on tests. The differences that I observe daily, every time I volunteer, attend an event, or talk to my girls about their day, are not as objective and measurable as a test score, but they are no less real and no less important. I don't have time in 3 minutes to list and explain them all, so I've made you a handout. As you see, it's brief. I give you these observations to ask you to consider hiring 2 additional teachers for Arsenal Elementary, 1 for kindergarten and 1 for first grade. I know 17 students in a class may not be realistic for a public school and its budget, but 30 is too many. Our kids need the diversity that a public school provides, but it must be combined with class sizes that allow our children to grow in ways that can't be measured in tests. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker number 5.
Good evening. My name is Dave Bringen. I'm a community organizer with Lawrenceville United's Pep Rally program. I'm here tonight to request an additional kindergarten and first grade teacher at Arsenal Elementary for next year. I want to share a story. A little while ago, I was in Arsenal. I was walking through the hall. In front of me was the kindergarten class, all 30 of them in an adorable, perfect line in the hallway. I couldn't see the kindergarten teacher because she was at the caboose, which was all the way into the classroom. But even though their teacher wasn't right in front of them, all the kids were patient, quiet, and perfectly behaved. Then one of the students I know well saw me as I walked by, and she stepped out of line to give me a hug, which she always does when she sees me. This caught the attention of another student who knows me, who then joined the other in hugging me. One by one, the kids saw what was going on and left the line to join in until I was literally trapped in the middle of a giant hug circle of 5-year-olds. After a couple seconds, the caboose arrived in the hallway, and the teacher suddenly saw that her perfect line had dissolved into a swarm of hugging kids around Mr. Dave. She laughed while I tried to offer an apology, and then she hurried to free me and get the kids back in line and moving on with their day. For me, it was the highlight of my week and the best job performance evaluation I could ever receive, but I felt bad for the teacher, who was obviously doing an amazing job, but was overmatched by the sheer numbers and an unanticipated distraction she had no control over. At Arsenal, our 2 kindergarten classrooms are currently at 30 and 28 students, and because new students come in through the ESL track all the time, that can increase any day. There are lots of debates right now about what are appropriate class sizes given budget constraints, but I don't think anyone could argue that a kindergarten class of 30 is fair to anyone, teachers or students. This is especially true at Arsenal Elementary, where 89% of our students are economically disadvantaged, and the majority of our students come from homes where English isn't the first language. Despite the fact that our students have higher needs than those at other schools, I couldn't find any other school in PPS that has kindergarten class sizes this large. I help out with the Ready Freddy transition team at Arsenal, and we already have 50 kids enrolled or in the works for kindergarten next school year. This doesn't count kids who aren't currently in pre-K or the kids who will inevitably trickle in through the ESL program, so we can expect a similar kindergarten size for next year, if not larger, because we're doing so much outreach to prospective families. On May 2nd and May 9th, we're going to knock on every single door in Arsenal's feeder pattern to make sure that kids are registered for kindergarten on time, and we'd love to have all of you join us. But you can support us more by giving us another kindergarten and first grade teacher next school year so that we can tell families with confidence that their child won't be dividing their learning time and their hugs with 29 other students. Thanks.
Thank you. Speaker number 6, Ms. Wells.
Good evening, everybody. I'm not going to give you anything on paper. I'm going to give you my story. I am a grandmother of 2 children at Arsenal. Last year, we got custody of my grandson, who has a few problems. He was in foster care, and he was in the kindergarten. The teacher was so overworked, she could not give him the extra little bit of attention he needed to get him settled in and to get him caught up to where he needed to be. Now he's in first grade, and because of the class size, he's facing the same kind of problem. He needs a little extra push, and the teacher just can't give it. She's an awesome teacher. She has awesome credentials, but she just doesn't have the time. She has 22 kids. Any of you that have kids know a 6-year-old is a ball of energy. So those poor teachers are in the classroom with a big ball of energy that, they just can't get it all done. There's not enough time in the day. There are children from all over the world in this school, and they all need the help of extra teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next 3 speakers was number 7, Mary King, number 8, Sonia Edwards, number 9, Christina Russell. Ms. King.
Hi, I'm Mary King, and I'm listed as a parent, but actually I'm a teacher. And I'm not only a teacher, but I have the best job in Pittsburgh Public Schools. I teach English as a second language at Colfax to kids from 4th to 8th grade, kids from all over the world. Just a few days before spring break, one of my students, who just came last spring, and he had no English when he came, not even a word, slipped me this note that I want to share with you. Speaking English is the best thinks that I never had on my life. Well, of course, I just melted. He's just now beginning to string words together into sentences. He's just now trying out his English above a whisper. And with that, I went on to my spring break. I started thinking about what he was going to face when he came back to school after the break. Because he came last spring, he needs to take more hours of PSSA testing than a prospective attorney, and Pennsylvania needs to take hours of the bar exam. They take 2 days, 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon. This kid's going to face more than that. And I reached a decision over break, and I'd like to share a portion of the letter that I gave to my principal when I returned. I respectfully ask for another assignment during PSSA testing because I cannot, in good conscience, administer the tests. This decision has not been easy, and it is the result of deep discernment. And in that first paragraph, I give some reasons that I've been concerned, and many people are, about the testing. But then I explain that the reasons I've moved to take the path is much more personal than those reasons. I've seen how PSS testing has hurt my own students. And I shared the example of a little girl who just left to go back to Japan. And a routine we have is to ask the kids about their first week in the new school. And she shared how she cried every day because she was in a grade level that had to take math and science. She cried at school and she cried at home, and I do remember that. And I remember a 13-year-old girl who came from a war-torn country, had never been to school. Her own language was only an oral language, not a written language, yet she was required to take the math PSSA. And I can remember her writing, "I love ESL, I love ESL, I love ESL," because that's really all she knew how to write to save face with the other students. I knew she couldn't understand the questions. And then I thought about this child. I've been really proud to be a strong advocate for my students, all my students, not just in recent years in ESL. It's clear that my ESL students...
Thank you so much for taking time to come out today. Speaker number 8, Ms. Edwards.
Good evening, everyone. I come to highlight Mr. Derek Hardy and commend him on his efforts at University Prep of Margaret Lyons. My name is Sonia Edwards, and I am employed as a PCA at University Preparatory School at Margaret Lyons 6 through 12. I am currently working with a student who has multiple sclerosis. Working at the school has afforded me the opportunity to see the work being done that no one else sees. I would like to commend Mr. Hardy on his exemplary effort and dedication in helping the students to achieve academic excellence and to pursue the Pittsburgh Promise. I believe that Mr. Hardy and his tireless efforts are going unnoticed. His commitment to his students and staff is deserving of congratulations on a job well done. Each day I see a lot and I hear a lot. However, regardless of the day, he remains professional and unwavering in his commitment to ensure a quality education for all students. In conclusion, I would like to thank Mr. Hardy and the staff at University Prep for all that they do, both personally and professionally. Thank you all for your time and your attention.
Thank you. Speaker number 9.
Dear school board and district staff, my name is Christina Russell, and I am a parent of 3 kindergarten graduates from Arsenal Elementary School. My 3 children are currently enrolled in the Pittsburgh Public Schools. I'm here to support fellow parents who are asking for an additional teacher for kindergarten and first grade for the 2015-2016 school year at Arsenal Elementary. In my opinion, kindergarten and first grade are the 2 most formative years in a child's life. They are the foundation for a child's future education. It is during those years that a child forms socialization skills that he or she will use for the rest of his or her life. Today, with large classroom sizes and a majority of students coming from non-English speaking families presents a challenge to the highly qualified teachers to help their students reach academic milestones. While these teachers do their absolute best, it is unfortunate that some students fall to the side. Today, there seems to be an increase in the number of children being diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADD, or other behavioral disorders at an early age. I speak to you as a parent of 3 children with mental health and behavioral disabilities. My husband and I often need an extra set of hands and eyeballs. If I may return to the subject of large classrooms, I would like you to think about just how one teacher is expected to manage and educate 30 children at one time with a language barrier or other special needs efficiently. A teacher is a special person indeed. He or she wears many hats as an educator, a nurse, or a social worker, to name a few. I would like to take a moment to personally applaud our teachers. But our teachers can only do so much with a class size of 28 to 30 students in kindergarten. It is our vision to have an additional kindergarten and first grade teacher for the 2015-2016 school year. Thank you very kindly for your attention to this very important matter.
Thank you. Our next 2 speakers are number 10, Mr. Mark Rodicus, and number 11, Kimberly Walter.
Good evening. My name is Mark Rodicus. Family and I reside at 108 South 12th Street on the south side. I have 2 pieces of paper, 2 packets for you. One is my testimony, and the second is the 8-page handout, which is the summer youth employment package. I have plenty for everybody in the audience as well. So I'm the boys varsity swim coach at Pittsburgh Obama. This year I also had the pleasure of coaching the women's water polo team at CMU. That's been it was a fun year. We had a good season. We got to interact a little bit too with the spaces and the kids at Pittsburgh Public Schools with the college team. You know, and I'm a big believer in being promise ready as well as being able to be recruited onto a sports team when our kids go to college. So I want them to get onto campus and have a group of friends and associate with upperclassmen as teammates and have caring adults as coaches on campus too. But tonight, mainly my talk is about another job I've taken for the month of April. I'm working with the 2015 Earn and Learn Summer Job Program for youth ages 14 to 21. So I'm out as a recruiter getting the word out to the kids in the schools with the East Side Neighborhood Employment Center. It's on Penn Avenue. So I spent today in a lunch period with UPrep kids, and last week at SciTech and Alderdice. My coworker was at Pittsburgh Obama. So we need everybody's help in the next week. If you see a kid, probably 8th grade or older, ask them if they have a summer job, and then ask them if they've applied to the expanded job program with the city. We're trying to make everyone aware, and not only that, but then turn in their applications ASAP. Last year on the final days, there were lines at the doors. So there's some red tape. It's a government job, and it's not easy for 14-year-olds to necessarily gather the pay stubs of the household income, produce Social Security cards and birth certificates, but it's something that that needs to be done. So I'm a little bit worried about reaching the kids at Perry and Carrick, by the way, so if you can help, that would be great. So there's an 8-page applications here tonight. All the details are in there. If you see someone in the next week, ask them. The deadline's April 30th. So I want to thank you for all you do. Then come May 1st, I'll be able to switch gears again and go back into helping with our water polo at Summer Dreamers, and also as a school-sponsored sport at Obama. And maybe I'll see you around town on the 15th. I'll take a father to school day with Mr. Brentley. So I want to thank Dr. Lane for coming down to City Hall last week. And hey, do you guys have a summer job? Maybe you don't qualify if you're being a little older than 21, but thanks for help on making sure that the mayor sweats and has to really hire a lot of kids this summer. Thank you.
Thanks for coming out. Our last speaker for the evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kimberly Walter. I'm a parent, grandparent of 10 children through the Pittsburgh Public Schools.
4 of them which are in Arsenal right now. I'm speaking to you tonight to ask additional teachers for Arsenal Elementary next year, especially kindergarten, first and second grade. For my own personal experience, I know that kindergarten is an important transition in a child's life, and a class size matters for children's development and future success. With my own granddaughter, she struggles to pick up the socialization and learning skills that she needs to be successful in kindergarten, that she did in kindergarten. Though she had an exceptional teacher, it was not enough for her to get the skills she needed because there was such a high classroom size. Due to that, she ended up having to repeat kindergarten. If children don't have the reading skills, by the time they are in 3rd grade, they're falling dangerously behind. I see this with my own grandson. As much as I try to help him at home, and as great as his teacher is in his classroom, it is a large that he gets distracted easily, and the teacher has to spend so much time on many children in the classroom with the difficulties. My grandson doesn't get the support he needs to excel so that he is ready for 3rd grade. So he'll probably be repeating. Then there is so many children to handle. Our teachers can only do so much. This is especially true at kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, because the children are so young and are still learning how to control themselves. Individual attention matters, and if they aren't engaged during that time, they lose the interest and will fall behind at the time they're going into 3rd grade. My grandson is falling there. And they won't have the skills or the interest in school that they need to excel the rest of their school years. We need this especially at Arsenal because we have so many cultures, languages, and special needs. If we cannot get smaller classes for our younger grades, our children are not going to excel to the expectations that we hold for them. As a parent or grandparent, we want the best for our children, and we want to build Arsenal up to be one of the best schools in the city. We're working hard to support the school, but please support us by giving us other teachers for kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming out. Mr. Sumter, this concludes the testimony for this evening.
I would like to thank everyone for your participation and engagement with this Pittsburgh Board of Education public hearing. This evening's public hearing is now adjourned. Have a good evening.
Welcome back. Well, Annette, this month we had a majority of the speakers concerned with class sizes at Arsenal K through 8.
Right. A number of people spoke about this issue at Arsenal. You know, an interesting development has been speakers from a particular school coming together to the public hearing as a group. We saw Minadeo a couple months back, and then John Morrow last time, and then this time Arsenal. And it does seem to offer an advantage over having a single speaker. I think there's more of an impact when you get person after person kind of driving home a particular concern.
Strength in numbers.
Strength in numbers, and also more aspects of the issue can be presented since each individual speaker only gets 3 minutes. So I think it can also provide moral support for people who have not been in this particular public hearing environment before. So I think that's a good thing. It's interesting. About the Arsenal speakers specifically, some of them testified quite movingly about the effect that the large class sizes are having on their children or their grandchildren, especially students who may have some special needs or students from other countries where English is not their first language, and especially in the lower grades, in kindergarten and 1st grade. And it's such an issue that one parent is even sending one of her children to school in Wilkinsburg, which is a little bit unusual to have one child in Wilkinsburg and one child in Arsenal. So I hope this is an eye-opener for the district. The district is most likely operating on the assumption that a larger class size will save money, enable you to have fewer classes and fewer teachers, as we saw with the leveling concerns a few months back. But as we pointed out many times, a lot of times that is really not the case. It doesn't take many children switching over to charter schools with the district paying the tuition cost before the savings are quickly eaten up. And that financial calculation doesn't even begin to take into account the cost to the children, as the speakers so movingly testified. So hopefully this has given the district something to think about, and it can act quickly to reduce the class sizes. Because for all the talk that we have heard over the past 10 years about right sizing, it appears that these classrooms still are not at the right size.
Right, right.
I did think of one possible solution for this school in particular, and the issue may be appearing at other schools throughout the district, but for Arsenal, I thought that it is possible that some of the students could go to Woolslair, which is just up the street. It's a similarly diverse school, and as we learned through prior public hearings, a group of parents and board member Regina Holly worked hard to bring a STEAM program to that school, which is STEM plus arts, science, technology, engineering, and math plus arts. And the Woolslair group is actually seeking students, once again, as we heard at a prior hearing, and so maybe the Arsenal and the Woolslair parents, who we've heard testify at different months, can get together, listen to each other's testimony, and maybe bring the two groups together and have some of those students who are overcrowded at Arsenal head up the street to Woolslair.
Do we know what the class size in kindergarten is at Woolslair?
No, I don't, but I know that they were actively recruiting students,
Okay.
and they didn't mention just the upper grades. They wanted people to come in, and it looks like the STEAM program is only applying because it's new. I think the students at the upper grades are not going to be eligible, and they're recruiting for the STEAM program. So I'm thinking that there should be space there. We keep hearing about how it was just so tiny and on the verge of disappearing. So maybe it doesn't need to disappear. But good point, though.
Yeah. It seems to me it doesn't take an expert in education to realize that 30 kindergartners is untenable. I mean, you cannot attend to all their needs at that level. I mean...
Well, I think the union contract allows that, actually, and incredibly enough, I think for, I'm not sure the exact number, but I'm thinking it may, I think it is 30 students.
Wow. The other very interesting topic that was discussed was the problems that teachers are having with the RISE evaluation system. And it was very refreshing to hear from a teacher in the trenches regarding the RISE system. She expressed concerns that we've heard in the past, that the RISE system evaluation is being implemented in a way that is causing more harm than good for the students. Now, I did have a short email conversation with her after the hearing, and she's expressed to me that the teachers just feel under siege. And because they feel under siege, they're not able to concentrate on their craft. They're too focused on meeting narrow criteria so that they can have good ratings so that they can keep their jobs. One of the things that she talked about was that the RISE system was based or extracted from the Charlotte Danielson framework for education, and that her opinion was that it was never meant to be an evaluation system. It was mostly meant to be a professional development and for teachers to grow their craft. I hope the administration, I hope this opens up a discussion as with the class size.
Okay, and then we had a few comments on testing, and specifically testing of students who may be a little bit behind, students who are learning English as a second language, students for whom the tests may really not be appropriate. I wanted to first note how unusual it is for teachers to speak out. This is as much a story as the testing issues raised by the teachers, because since Broadgates began, there's been a noticeable drop in the willingness of teachers to offer candid opinions.
Exactly.
But based on what the teachers described, testing is a real problem for some of their students. Giving top priority to the well-being of the child, it seems that there should be some additional ground for exemption from testing. We've heard a lot about the religious exemption and how that can be modified, not necessarily along the lines of a traditional religion, but people's maybe spiritual, moral beliefs, that kind of thing. So I'm really hoping that somebody somewhere will address the problem that these teachers have had the courage to come forth and bring up.
There's 22 tests a year. It's affecting all kids and all teachers and the learning opportunities and the learning time. So and we should note that these are not just problems in the Pittsburgh Public Schools. This is nationwide. The testing, the class sizes, the evaluations, these are all nationwide. And we know that there are a lot of pockets of excellence. And it was nice to see a couple of stakeholders speak to this. Mark Raudikus, who's been a strong advocate for the public schools, especially for the sports programs, a volunteer. He heads and runs the polo team at Obama.
Water polo.
Water polo.
We don't have students
not on horses
here. No horses on Pittsburgh School grounds.
That would be interesting.
Yes, it would.
But he highlighted this summer job opportunities for students, and we're going to put the links to those to that website on for anybody out there that might know a student that needs a summer job. And then Sonia Edwards, who is an employee at University Prep, spoke in support of Principal Derek Hardy, who is trying to set the floundering University Prep on the right course. It's really having a lot of problems up there, but she clearly feels that he's doing a great job there. Making a great effort.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the only other thing I wanted to say is if you out there in the viewing audience have comments, we have a phone number where you can leave your comments and we can replay them on a future edition. Our number is 412-253-7244. That's 412-253-7244 for your comments. Okay.
So that's it for the April edition, and we'll see you next month for the month of May.
Bye-bye.
Bye.